offering opportunity that will serve others today. Add about minutes is prepared when it matters the most. That you will take note, that you will take hope, and that you will take charge. Today is the day that in this crisis you can make a significant difference. Now, it's my pleasure to bring to you John C. Maxwell.
Joining with us today. We're just teaching and you're by the quote, multiply any of these principles to people that you're leading or that you're overseeing. They're all yours. Okay. We freely give them to you because we want you to succeed. Your success is our success. Okay. So the lesson I want to teach today is entitled Courage to Continue. And the reason when courage, but here they look for to themselves, other people to follow. I want to start before I even make my first major thought and just say that the courage to continue tomorrow cannot happen unless we have courage to continue today. So what we never can do is we can't cast the courage net on tomorrow and get there if we don't have courage for today. So it's kind of like I'm just having to have courage now. If I could be courageous right now and make good decisions and have an incredible attitude that is a can do it, can make it attitude right now, it's going to make all the difference in the world. So I'm going to encourage you in this lesson to courage up. Okay, we're going to all courage up. And so let me give you some real practical ways to have that courage continue. Number one, each day we can choose to be courageous. And I want you to understand that courage it's a choice, and we can choose to do that. In fact, let me kind of illustrate courage. I think courage is like a door. Okay, it's a door in front of you. But what's interesting about this door, it's unlike most doors. There's not a door handle on the outside. If you're on the outside, you can't open it. The door handle's on the inside. Courage is a door that I have in my life that only I can open. You can't open it for me. Nobody on the outside can come and open it for me and say, John, get courageous. I have to go over, I have to choose to go over and turn that knob. And the moment that I go over to turn that knob, then I begin to do a courageous act. But it's something that can't be given to me. It's not something that somebody else can do for me. It's something that I just remember, the courage door only has one knob, and it's on your side. And you just got to walk over and you have to turn that knob. And to do that, we have to, I think, put the word I choose in front of courage. I choose to be courageous. Or I guess we could be negative and say, I choose not to be courageous. But I want you to realize it's a choice. It's a choice that I make. It's a choice that you make. And so I wrote down here that if our lesson is called Courage to Continue, what we need is this. We need courage to continue. If that's the case, then we continually need courage. We continually need courage. If I have to have courage to continue day in and day out, I have to continually be encouraged. I was thinking, I was with Mark Cole recently, and we were talking about when I was in Las Vegas about a year and a half ago, I did a half marathon. Now, you have to understand, I had never done a half marathon in my life. In fact, we were in Vegas, and we were doing a conference, and he said, John, they're going to have a half marathon tomorrow. And I said, well, let's do it. Let's enter it in. And of course, I hadn't walked, I hadn't trained, I hadn't done any of this. And now Mark has run marathons. So, I mean, he's in shape, but I mean, you have to understand, I was fat, and and had practiced and had worked my way up. But I said, but I love a new experience. I said, this will be fun. Let's try it. So, so we went, and Mark went with me, and I figured I wanted to do it all. Now, yeah, it's a half marathon. I'm walking, I'm not running, but I got to walk fast. I want to do it under 4 hours. So Mark goes with me to be my timekeeper, to keep me accountable, and to be my encourager. And every mile he'd tell me what I ran in because I knew what I walked in, because I knew I had to beat a number. And I'll never forget, we got to about the 10th mile, and I started to hit the wall. Okay, you athletes know what I'm talking about. For people like me, I never experienced that before. But here we go. I hit the wall, and what was incredibly beautiful is that Mark saw that I was starting to just fly, and he said, John, he said, tell you what, we were about mile 10. He said, don't talk. He said, I'll give you the time and I'll encourage you the rest of the way. And he did. All I could do is just keep my old legs moving. And we made it. We beat our time, the whole process. But Mark, he went alongside of me and he encouraged me. He gave me courage to continue. And when I thought about that, I thought, how wonderful that is for a leader to be able to encourage people to have courage and to continue. Because every day we need courage. In fact, I wrote this down and I want to share it with you. Every day we need courage to seek the truth when we know it's going to be painful, or change when it's easier to remain comfortable, or express convictions when others will disagree with us, or overcome obstacles when progress is not going to come any other way unless we go through those barriers. Or it takes courage to learn and grow when we know that we're displaying and uncovering our own weaknesses. It takes courage for us to take the high road when others are not treating us well. It takes courage to lead when we're in front of other people, which means that we're an easy target for them to shoot at. So how do we have this courage to continue on a daily basis? Well, it's very simple. Principles and values are the foundation for courage. And once we have the right principles that we operate under, and once we embrace the right values, then what happens to us? We have the courage to continue. It's Roy Disney, Walt Disney's brother, who said, once you know what your values are, it's easy to make your decisions. And so what leadership does is it expresses courage, and that courage encourages others to do the right thing. And here's what I don't want you to miss. When we are courageous because we do the right thing, it puts steel in the backbone of our people. And they get the courage to do the right thing too. Because what happens in so many times is during difficult times, we want to do what's easiest or what's expedient in our lives. And so there's an example of courage that encourages others. So one little quick thought, and then I'm going to go to the second statement or comment on courage, and that is courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the little voice at the end of the day that says, I will try again tomorrow. I like that. It's that little voice at the end of the day that says, I will try again tomorrow. I'll get back up. The second comment I want to make on courage is that it's not an absence of fear, and it's not an absence of failure. So when people say, well, I must not be courageous because I got fear in my life, or I just can't imagine failing. Courage is moving forward in spite of fear, and courage is moving forward knowing there'll be failure in that process, that it's not all hits. There are a lot of misses in that. And so I want us to understand what courage is, because I think there's a misunderstanding of courage. And so we disqualify ourselves because I say, well, I got some fear in my life, or I'm afraid of failure. And so we say, well, I couldn't be a courageous person. That's not true. Because you see, inside of me, inside of you, are two continual emotions. And those two emotions are fear and courage. The fear of failure, the fear of not being able to produce or doing it, and yet the courage to. And both of these emotions are present within us. And the question is, which one of these emotions is it our fear that paralyzes us, or is it our courage that helps us to go on? Which one of these two emotions, one negative, one positive, is going to win. And the issue is, as I've taught before, what we focus on expands. If I focus on courage, then I'll have more courage, because what you focus on expands. So if I focus on courage, it increases and fear decreases. If I focus on fear, it increases and courage decreases. And so I've got both these emotions playing within me, and it's not like one's missing, one's lacking. It's not like I have courage and I have no fear. That's not true. I have courage and fear. But when courage is more dominant than fear, then I'll go with the dominant emotion. And so what I need to do is I need to feed my courage. And how do I feed my courage? I feed my courage by focusing on courage, by understanding what courage does for me, what courage does within me. And the moment that I do that, all of a sudden, I begin to be able to act, because now I put courage before me and I put my fear behind me. So I'm reading a good book. I'm going to refer to it twice. People ask me, what am I reading during this time? And this is one of them, okay? And I'm going to come back to it a little bit closer to the end of the lesson. But this is a book called The Courage Quotient, okay? And this book, the writer is very insightful. I'll give you his name in a moment. But basically, he talks about reframing failure and reframing fear. And how do we look at the failures that kind of keep us from being courageous, and how do we frame them? So I'm going to read it. Just listen for a moment, okay? These are just great words. Everyone does not react to failure or even the prospect of failure in the same way. We all know that's true, okay? For some, failure overshadows their life, controls their decisions, and causes them to basically give up. For others, they take failure in stride and they're able to move on beyond it. Now, what's the difference? Why are some overcome by failure, and why do some overcome failure? Take Thomas Edison. We all know that when he was trying to invent the incandescent light bulb, he just had thousands of misses and thousands of misses. And when he finally did make that invention of the light bulb, what was his statement? He said, I failed my way to success. We all know Winston Churchill said success consists of going from failure to failure, what? Without losing your enthusiasm. Now, okay, these are two great men. Edison failed his way to success. Churchill has gone from failure to failure and still keeps his enthusiasm. What makes them different? What makes them so different from the person that's overcome a failure? Don't miss this. This is worth the whole lesson right here. Two things. One is that those who overcome failure have the ability to reframe failure. And they reframe it by putting failure as an asset or as a learning tool. So when you speak of failure to Thomas Edison, he says, oh, yes, he said that didn't work. Guess what I learned from that? When you talk to Winston Churchill about failure and the bombings, I mean, I think he went through, I think it was 51 what we would call 9/11s that we experienced in America. I mean, he had 51 times they bombed the heck out of London. And how do you go from failure to failure and keep your enthusiasm? He would say, I reframed it. It's a learning tool for me. It's a learning tool. The moment that somebody says, I want to give you a learning tool, we could get excited. We say, oh, you mean it's going to be something that's going to help me grow and learn? Yes, it is. And then they hand us failure. People that reframe failure look at failure as a learning tool. That's a huge difference than people that look at failure as a problem. A learning tool is not a problem. Learning tool is an asset. It's a blessing. So the difference in how people are overcome by failure or people who overcome failure, the difference is, number one, they reframe failure by thinking of it as a learning tool. And number two, this is huge, they accept failure as inevitable. It's going to happen. It's going to happen to me. It's going to happen to you. We have failed in our past, and guess what? We will fail today, and guess what? We will fail tomorrow. They look at failure as inevitable. I'm reading on. I'm just reading one more paragraph out of this book. He says, we have fallen in love with the idea this is huge, that we can control our lives. And because of that, it causes us to resist failure. In other words, if I think I can control my life and everything's in my control, guess what? Failure, I said, oh, wait a minute, I'm not going to accept failure. I'm not going to accept that. Okay, watch this. Just like age, the battle against failure is a lost cause. It is your past and it is in your future. People with courage understand that failure is a risk much of the time and unavoidable some of the time. Rather than trying to tiptoe around failure, they simply accept it as a part of the process. Now, the moment that I accept the fact that I will fail some more. Now, you say, but John, you're the leadership expert. I know I'm the leadership expert, but I will fail in my leadership. I won't always make the best leadership decisions. I won't always have the best leadership thinking. There will be some failures in that. It's inevitable. And when I look at it as the fact that it's not only inevitable, but when it happens to me, it's a learning tool. Once I reframe failure like this, then I have incredible amount of courage to continue in my life. And that's what I don't want you to miss. I don't want you to miss it. The third thing I want to say about courage, the third comment is that courage requires action. It just requires action from me and you. And it doesn't have to even be a big action, but it has to be action. There is no courage without action. And in fact, I would like to take just a moment, just give me a 1 minute time out here to talk to you, because I value my time together like this with you, and I value my mentoring time. And years ago, I started a wonderful mentoring program called Maximum Impact Mentoring. And it's a monthly live call. I love the live call because I'm teaching out something maybe I just learned the previous day, and it's a live Q&A where people can ask me questions. I just love the energy of a live call. But it's a way of mentoring people, and I every month just do real practical leadership principles and teachings that'll help you to really grow. And since we're talking about courage as action, I would really like you to. I would like you to consider being a part of the Maximum Impact Mentoring Club. And I would love to have the opportunity to every month pour into your life. I do this for thousands, and I would like you to be one of them. In fact, just this next Thursday on May the 28th at 2 p.m., I'm going to be, that's 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be doing another live mentoring call, Maximum Impact Mentoring Call. And I want you to be with me. If you could be with me, I would love for that. And so here, if you want to become part of this program, and think about it, I think it's like $19 a month. It's like 50 cents a day, okay, just a little bit more than 50. I mean, 50 cents a day to invest in yourself. So here's what I want you to do: go to johnmaxwell.com/MIM, okay? And if you'll go to that right now, I'll do it one more time: johnmaxwell.com/MIM. If you go to that right now, you can become part of the program at $19, 50 cents a day, and I can come into your life. One more thing. Once you become part of the MIM program, there are over 60 lessons I've taught in the past. You get access to every one of them. So now think about it. For $19 a month, you not only have me on a monthly basis, but you can go back to the resources of 60 lessons that you can have, take it, use it, teach it, pass it on to your people. It can be your material. I just want to serve you. I want to give to you. I want to add value to you. So again, one more time, just go to johnmaxwell.com/MIM and be a part of our mentoring program. Love to have you with me every month. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Whatever course you decide upon, there's always someone to tell you that you're wrong." We all know somebody like that. I do, don't you? You know somebody like that. There are always difficulties arising which tempt you to believe that your critics are right. So you need to map out your course of action and follow it to an end. And to do that, that requires courage. Okay. So one more paragraph from the Courage Quotient. And by the way, the author of that book is Robert Diner, Diner. Okay. And here's what he says. Now we're talking about courage requires action. He said, if we choose courageous roles or think of ourselves as filling out courageous roles, we are more likely to act boldly when the need arises. A perfect example is the action taken by a 9-year-old in China. His name was Lin Hao. And in 2008, the place where he lived, Xi'an, was struck by a magnitude of 8.0 earthquake that left buildings flattened and more than 69,000 people dead. Terrible. Among the most tragic losses that day were the countless children whose school buildings collapsed. Lin Hao was in such a school and was able to rescue 2 of his classmates from the rubble before saving himself. And when he was asked about his courage, this young boy simply explained that he was the hall monitor. And he said, it was my job to save the other children. I love that. He just accepted it. This is what I do. I save other children. I have to have courage. That's what I do. Lin Hao quickly became a symbol of virtue in China, and he led the opening procession of the 2008 Olympic Summer Games. You see, courage is making a decision, and then it's taking action. So here, don't miss this. Courage is not something you store up. You don't save it for a rainy day. In fact, courage is something you use up. It's like going to the gym. It's like using your muscles. Courage happens by, you work it out. You work out your courage. And the more that you practice the courage, the more courage you have. You don't like store it up for boy, if there's ever a bad day, I'm going to pull it out of the storage closet. I'm going to put on courage. No. You use it up, and as you use it up, you get more of it. So 3 comments on courage so far. Number 1, each day we choose to be courageous. Secondly, courage is not an absence of fear or failure. 3, courage requires action. And my last thought is that life shrinks or expands in proportion to your courage. My courage either makes life expand to me or it makes it reduce. It goes back to that statement, everything that you want, but you don't yet have is outside your comfort zone. And courage kicks us out of the comfort zone, moves us either forward or backward. But the people that are going forward, guess what? They have courage. They have courage. I've talked about the difference between a puzzle and a life, the fact that when you put together a puzzle, you see the clear picture, and then you put the pieces in the right place. It's the picture, and then you put the pieces in. I see the picture, put the pieces together. Life's exactly opposite. You don't have a clear picture when you start life. When we started the coronavirus, no clear picture. There's not even a clear picture now for us. So what do? We do life. We began to put what we know together day by day, and after a while, we get clarity of the picture. So the crisis in our life, it calls for us to rise up. The crisis in our life calls us to be courageous in who we are. It calls us to be courageous in what we do. So I want to encourage you to be courageous, because in leadership, you have to go first. I've often laughed when you hear the story of Moses and the children of Israel when he got to the Red Sea, and the Egyptians were behind him and the Red Sea was in front of him, and he stretched out his rod and the waters parted. And don't you think Moses looked up to God about that moment and said, why must I always go first? I mean, can I send a delegation to see if those walls of water are going to hold it? Well, I think a lot of times in crisis, we ask, why do we go first? Well, we go first because we're the leader. We know the way, we go the way, and we show the way. And that takes a lot of courage. In fact, I'm going to dedicate this lesson on courage to one of my family members. Camille Mccullough is a niece of mine. And she is one incredible lady. In fact, yesterday was her birthday. But she's in the most courageous battle of her life right now. She's fighting stage 4 cancer. And I just want to dedicate this talk on courage to her because, we had a conversation the other day, a very intimate hour-long conversation where we talked about having courage for her to fight for her life. We also talked about having courage to die. and all the stuff that comes with the fact that you're facing death, and you have that courage to be able to do it in the right way. And when I got off of the phone and talking to her, I thought to myself, this lady has so much to teach me about courage. And so, Camille, I dedicate this lesson to you for 3 reasons. 1, you inspire me. I'm watching you look death right in the eye, and with faith, you're not even blinking. And I dedicate this lesson to you, secondly, because you have to have daily courage. Every day you've got to get up again, and you have to face the issues that you're facing and carrying right now. And the third thing I want to say to you, Camille, is I promise you I'm going to be your courage companion. And all that means is, lady, I love you to bits. You're beautiful inside, you're beautiful out. But I'm going to hang in there with you. I'm going to be your courage companion. I'm going to do for you what Mark Cole did for me on that half marathon when he just said, John, you don't even have to say anything these last few miles. I'll just talk. I'll encourage you. And I'll keep track of how you're doing. But he knew that I was so tired that sometimes I just couldn't even talk. Well, you may get that way sometimes. I just want you to know that not only am I going to encourage you, but we have a lot of people of faith that, are watching me right now. And if you are, I'm just saying, pray for her. Would you just lift up a prayer for her? And if you're not a person of faith, pray for her too, because God hears your prayer too. And I just hope that this lesson on courage to continue just puts a resolve in you that allows you to say, look, I'm not going to be overcome by the failures and the disappointments and the darkness. I'm going to overcome them. And you will. One day at a time, just have that courage. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for being with us today on the Leadership When It Matters the Most program. I hope John encouraged you in your leadership just like he encouraged me. Our goal in this time of crisis is to come alongside you, add value to you so you can multiply value to others. If you go to johnmaxwell.com, you'll find free resources, tools that will help you lead in these very unique times. You'll find our podcast, John Maxwell Leadership Podcast, Minute with Maxwell, a daily word that John will bring to you, as well as our leadership blog. All of those resources on johnmaxwell.com, and they are free and ready for you to encourage you as well as you encourage others. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you soon when leadership matters the most.